right, welcome back to the Living Our Abundance Summit Workshops 2022, and we are privileged once again to have Daniel Mangena joining us here to give us a taste of something really cool that I saw him do once very recently. I had never seen anything like this before. This is his version of how to break through blocks in a rather quick manner, and I mean, Daniel, you got to give us like a little bit of background. Where does this come from? Because when I saw you doing this, I thought like you were some sort of a psychiatrist sitting in a studio, inserting subconscious thoughts into people's minds. It was really wild.
So it's one of the things that we do in our Micro to Millions program regularly. So now I used to do it sort of every month. Pretty much. Now we do it a little bit less regularly, and it's kind of more for our accelerator guys that we get it done. Mm-hmm. Those guys get it once a month. Generally, as an entire community, we offer it maybe once a quarter or something like that, and people sort of opt in for a hot seat. I've tried doing it as an open to the public thing, but then it ends up taking too long doing it that way. So essentially, what happens is that I dive in and take a look at where the block is. So the whole approach that we take to creating anything is my flow funnel model. My flow funnel model asserts that everything in physical reality was preceded by some kind of transmission of thought into form, which was an action. An action is always preceded by an unconscious thought, because the unconscious thought is actually what triggers the action. A conscious thought that's aligned with an unconscious thought leads to action, but where there's a disconnect, the unconscious thought will always win out. And our emotional state is what sets the landscape for what those thoughts are going to be. And either our program or trigger, I call those intentions, leads to the emotional state at some level. There's stuff like environment, but basically everything that we want as an outcome is made up of an emotional state, an unconscious thought, and some kind of movement through time and space, no matter how small. So what I do with this process is, first I ask, what's your goal? What are you working towards? Then I'll explore what's out of whack with that income in relationship to that flow funnel through a series of questioning. With permission, I do energy reading as well. That's something that I can do. And just looking for where the thing is out of whack. So when I'm doing it for, what individual clients or someone does a VIP day with me, we'll spend an entire day, first of all, doing that and then unpacking what that means in general and rebuilding a new program, rebuilding a new emotional state, rebuilding a new thought pattern, rebuilding some habits and behaviors for them to go and practice. Then we've got sort of a 30-minute truncated version of that we make available to the general public. And then what I do with this sort of laser coaching is just dive in and just get a hit on what is going to move the needle now. So it's a bit more triage, on the battlefield kind of medical work. But in just a few minutes, I've not yet, touch wood, been able to fail in ascertaining at least one of the things standing between the person and what they want to do. They'll go away and do that and generally come back. And so it's designed not to be an be-all and end-all, but it will give you space to go and see something different right away if you apply what comes out. So, yeah.
That's really something. How did you develop the technique, though, the questioning technique that I was watching you do? Because it's like you said, it's really quick. It's really quick.
Intuitive. So I'm basically going on intuitive hits and also experience, because I've done hundreds, if not thousands of these now. Right.
Wow.
And so you get a feel for when someone's being resistant. Obviously, I'm quite sensitive to reading the energetics of it. And also the patterns. My autistic brain can see the patterns as well, even in terms of how they respond to stuff. I'll catch the slightest thing. Someone will say something a certain way. I say, oh, that's where the hidden thing is. And then we'll pull that out and open it up and say, oh, well, that's where the thing is. And then you'll go and have a look at that. So.
This actually answers the question for me, because I knew that you were slightly onto the autism spectrum, the autism Asperger's spectrum. And I often ask myself, how does he use that to his advantage? I'm sure he is somehow.
Yeah, to see the patterns. I look at the patterns, I see the patterns.
That is very, very cool. All right. Well, so we're going to offer it to anyone in the live stream audience today who is interested in giving it a shot. Maria has got her hands in the air. She is, she is just psyched. Do you want to go first, Maria, here? You want to try this out? All right. Why don't you unmic yourself and let's unmute your mic and let's get to it.
I want all things strange and weird and wonderful.
Well, how much time have we got for everybody today?
We have as much time as you want. I mean, I allocated 2 hours. I don't expect to use 2 hours, so it's whatever amount of time we want to do.
So I'm thinking then we'll do 5. We'll do 5 minutes. I like to have a time because then it keeps me sort of honest on the show, right?
Yeah.
So Maria, do I have permission to coach you through this, and do I have permission to read your energy as we proceed also? Please?
More than welcome.
Thank you. So I need you to be patient. It's going to look sometimes like I'm being a bit rude, saying pause or stop or hold. It's only because I've caught something that I want to catch. What you've got to say isn't going to mean as much as how you say it and what's behind it. There's no need to try and get me to understand anything or to explain anything. I'll ask very directed questions. The story doesn't really matter. The context is what matters. Does that make sense? Okay. So without further ado, when you sit with the idea of you having financial abundance, what is the number that comes to mind for you instantly?
10 million plus US.
10 million plus. You'll notice that some of my questions are deliberately vague, and this is for everyone. And that's because I want to see what comes from the vagueness. Okay. Right. So if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't matter. Just answer with whatever comes up. Okay. Because some questions are designed to trip you up deliberately. So we get past your conscious mind. Brilliant. There you go. So when you think about 10 million US dollars, what's the first thing that comes to mind in terms of how possible it is for you on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 being super possible, 1 being not that possible.
10.
10. On a scale of 1 to 5, it's 10. Okay. So you're double dipping on the possibility. If it's possible, then why don't you have it yet? What's the first thing that comes to mind when I ask that question? First thing, you went off to the left, which means your brain's trying to cook up a story. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Life happened. I'm on my way.
Life happened. Okay. So you feel that you're on your way there. It's just a matter of time?
Yes, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. When was the last time that you ever had $10 million?
Never.
When was the last time you met anybody that had $10 million?
When was the last time?
You met somebody that had $10 million?
Never.
Okay.
Online, yes, but not in real life.
That's fine. You've met them online. So you are consciously aware of the physical experience of someone who's actually had $10 million.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
More than one.
I'm going to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine that you're standing in front of a mirror, and the person or a person that you know who has done it before is standing next to you. I want you to swap your faces over. So they've got your face and you've got theirs. Tell me the first 3 emotions that come to your mind, please.
Peace, freedom, love.
Okay, swap those back, please. So you've got your head back. Get your head back first. Get your head back first. So peace, freedom, and love. What's one time in your life that you felt peaceful?
Many times, my whole childhood.
Okay. What's the time that you felt love? Try and zero in on a specific experience, please.
Childhood.
Try and zero
sitting
in
on my dad's lap.
Beautiful.
Sleeping in church.
Peace, love, and what was the third one?
Love.
Peace, love, and
peace. Freedom.
Freedom. Okay. Close your eyes, please, and tell me where freedom sits in your body.
My head.
Okay. So what part of your head? The top of your head, the side of your head? Is it inside the brain? Is it your whole head?
Brain.
Okay. I want you to take that sensation of freedom being in your brain, and I want you to imagine that it's stepped into an elevator and it starts to descend. I want you to notice the feeling of that descending happening from your head, past your eyes, nose, mouth, neck, and into the center of your chest. Can you feel it there? I want you to allow that to be joined with the sensation of the memory of you sitting on your dad's lap in church. And I want you to actually breathe that emotional state into your body right now. I'm going to ask you again, why don't you have your 10 million yet? What's the first thing that comes up?
It's not the time
It's not the time. Okay.
yet.
Who's going to decide when it's time?
I am.
Okay. Do you want it to be the time now?
Yes.
So why are you allowing it not to be the time? Again, just whatever comes to mind.
I'm not ready for it, for what I want to do for the world.
Pause.
I'm in process.
You're in process. When does the process end?
Before the end of this year.
Before the end of this year. Thank you. Last line of something I want to explore is when you think about 10 billion, close your eyes for me, please. Take a nice deep breath, hold, and breathe out as I count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. When you see yourself in your mind's eye as having had that 10 million, how does it feel like it came to you? Close your eyes for me, please.
Easy.
What's the process by which it came to you? What's the road? Does it feel like there's a set road?
No, the road changes all the time. I've got more or less a map, but it's not set. But it is online, robots, trading, all the things I do.
Okay. When you take a nice deep breath, please, I want you to shake this all out. I'll give you a little debrief. Okay. So the path that we follow, and this will go for everyone to understand this piece. I won't have to explain it again. The path that we follow is simply this. We have an inciting thought. That inciting thought triggers an emotional state. An emotional state triggers an unconscious thought. The unconscious thought triggers habits and behaviors. Habits and behaviors triggers outcome. What I saw was lack of clarity on the inciting thought, which means you're probably running on a program. If the program was going to lead you to being rich, it would have done it already. The emotional state seems to be very clear. So I don't feel that it's a matter of emotional state, although there were some twinges of holding yourself back a little bit, the whole I'm not ready thing. There's nobody deciding that you're not ready. That's just a program. It's a story. Then you were very much cognitive. When I asked you where freedom sat, it was here. There's a phrase that, a quote that I love by a guy called Michael Singer that says, you know you're in trouble when the mind is telling you how to get to God.
It is one of my problems. I am most of the time in the mind. I overthink. I think.
And this is the thing. If we're thinking, we're not available to be feeling. And essentially, it's the feeling that does the heavy lifting in terms of bringing in an outcome. So my invitation to you would be, get more clear on what it will feel like to have 10 million. Not as if I had 10 million, it will be like this. I mean, what would you do with your life differently? I would even do this, and this is an exercise that I do sometimes when I'm working on a new goal. In the morning, ask yourself, the version of me that has hit that goal, how did they spend this morning? The version of me, how would they respond to this? The version of me, and just for a day, question everything that you go to do with that and ask yourself, is there any way that I can more deeply embody that version of me today? Do that with deeper clarity. You'll find that the emotional state will open up more opportunity, and will also start to change this a little bit, and you'll find it opens up a bit. Getting to 10 million is not difficult, but it's also not easy. It's just a matter of state of being. I know from taking enough people to millions of dollars that there are key patterns that will show up. I asked you how it would happen, and you didn't have clarity on how it would happen, which means that your mind probably hasn't created the vision of it clearly enough for you to experience it. So getting very, very clear on the end result and your emotional state in the end result is going to open you up to starting to connect to it more deeply. And as you connect it more deeply, it will show up more likely. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What do I see here? Oh, Maria just unmuted.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
I've got a question, Dan. When you do something, for instance, with Anne-Marie, I did it with her, and it resonated, but differently. How does that work?
What color came up for you?
Also blue, green, turquoise. The orange was very bright, and it was easy to let it go through my whole system like gold. And also the hands, but the butterflies in my hands were more like artist painted butterflies just flying. It wasn't containing me.
So
it's not the cold feeling.
With you. So every single one of the energy centers has a role physiologically, mentally, and also spiritually. So there's a spiritual aspect, there's a physical aspect, which generally is a gland. So the solar plexus is actually a gland there. The throat chakra, the thyroid is there. There's an actual physical gland that corresponds to it. It anchors it in physical reality. It's one of the reasons why when you've got goals, it's important to speak it or to write it down, because it begins a process of bringing it from non-form into form. Okay. So the colors that were coming up for you will just show that there's something that your spirit or your mind is trying to tell you about the associated part of your body. And there's a message in there. And different parts of the different energy centers having different roles. Like I said, the first sentence about safety, right? Safety, security, surety, freedom of expression here with the fifth center, foresight with the sixth center, which people see my third eye is open. It's like you be able to see beyond the physical experience of what is. Your divine connection up here, your root connection, and then you've got your feet chakra. Did everyone know that there's a chakra in your feet as well? There's an energy center in your feet. There are actually a lot more than 7. The mystics talk about 9 or 10, but they're actually infinitely more. And then when you go to the nadis, there are other little sub-energy centers. There's actually a lot of those as well. But every single one of them's got an expression. Every one of them's got a role. That's where the whole thing with acupuncture comes in. Taking a physical action to impact the energetics, which then loops back and has a physical response. So the physical action goes in, shifts the energetics, and then it comes out and deals with the physiology. And then I've got peace, or I've got healing, or what have you. So there are what I've learned to call collective agreements around what these different centers and colors mean. But what's more important is what they mean to you. Because your individualized meaning is what's going to have the impact on you at an unconscious level. So there are agreements already exist. So for example, when I was talking to you about how, if you know anybody that's made money, one of the things I found time and time again is that if you don't know somebody that's done something, your mind's going to call BS because it doesn't have a physical thing to hold on to. And what's going to happen is then the belief systems that you hold around it are going to be limited to what your physical experience has been. So when I ask that question and someone says no, I say, go out and find some evidence. I worked with a woman, for example, who was, she was getting a bit on with age, not old, just getting on a bit with age, was fearful that she's never going to have kids, that she's going to die of the menopause and all this, lots of stuff. She was having all these fears and she was getting lost in the fear. And so I had her go and research stories of women that are older than her that have had healthy babies. Now, all of a sudden, the story that was running in her mind that had her stuck in this fear, it can't stay there because the mind just goes on the evidence. So now it's got evidence that I think it was Halle Berry or someone had a kid when they were in their 50s or whatever. It's like, oh, well, it's possible. As long as it's possible, the mind can't act with certainty to the negative and sabotage it to the negative. It still might give you some pushback. It still might give you some stories, but your individualized belief, which is based on your individualized experience, is where the meaning's going to sit, irrespective of what's going on in the world. But what's going on in the world is a story that you can sign up to. I call it subscribing to an agreement. You can subscribe to that agreement and take the power of it. So, for example, I don't believe in, oh, it's 222, it's 333, it's 1111. Oh my God, like the portal's open. I don't believe it. Do you know why? Because that's based on the Gregorian calendar. The universe doesn't operate, nature doesn't operate on the Gregorian calendar. Do you think that Mother Nature's counting the leap years today? Oh, it's the 11th today. Right? The Lionsgate number 8. Number 8.
She's got time.
Right?
Not with us around. There's no time to count.
It's number 8. Oh God, I forgot to count the leap year. We better open up the portal. It's like it. But Lynn McTaggart, in her work, she wrote a book called The Power of 8. I don't know if you've ever heard of her work. It's very amazing. We use it in our work, in our community all the time. But she scientifically demonstrated that if 8 people hold an idea, the fiber and fabric of reality can change. So if 8 people are holding a goal or an intention, things can move. The more powerful the resonance of that 8, then the more it moves. But I've seen it with my own eyes as well. I've done a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've been doing that for 4 or 5 years. I'm old school when there was like just a couple of hundred of us at the event. Now 2,000 people sell out in 10 minutes. It's hilarious. But, I've seen people come in a wheelchair, 8 people holding up a certain frequency, and they leave on their feet. I've seen it with my own eyes, right? So when you've got an idea like 1111, which millions of people are signed up for now, it's bullshit to me, pardon my Portuguese. However, enough people believe it for it to be real enough for me to plug into it. So it's like, I know what's really going on, but it works. So I'm gonna jump on board with it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's the same with all of these colors. Who said, has anybody actually physically seen a root chakra? I haven't, right? But Hindu culture has been saying for 5,000 years that it's associated with the color red. So guess what? Everyone goes with the idea it's red. So we sign up for it being red. The heart center is green. Oh, the rainbow. There's 7 of those. That's exactly what it is, except there's more than 7. But because enough people believe in it, it gives us something to roll with. But what really matters is, of those stories, which one do you sign up for? Which one do you believe in? That's where the power is. Once you've developed that conscious relationship, you can plug in and you can unplug. You can plug in, you can unplug. Like Mercury retrograde, it means that everything's going to go to pants. Plug out. Plug out. I don't want that one, thanks. But you can have that conscious relationship when you're standing in your power about what's yours and what's not, what's experience and what's story. Does that make sense?
The other guys know now about it, but I've got fibromyalgia, myofascial pain syndrome, Tietdse Syndrome. They're all the same kind of thing. Now I'm going to ask you a difficult question based on having the happy childhood and you saying about my head, and I am an overthinker. It's all over my body, the trigger points, everything from under my feet to up in my neck, everywhere, except my tummy. I think it's because I like eating.
You need to get a good braai in your system, eh?
I want to know, is there something that you can guide me on how to delve into that? It was 30 years ago, they told me it's not curable. And I said, I'm going to find the cure, and I am going to, and I'm busy finding it. But it's as if there is something on cell memory level or something subconscious that I can't find to get it out.
Well, here's the thing. You've already kind of shot yourself in the foot by trying to find it, because all the time that you're spending in it is connecting you to the frequency of it, which perpetuates the same thing. So when I'm working with people, I don't try to look for the limiting belief or try to look for what the thing is, because then you're in relationship with it. And as long as you're still in relationship with it, you're still giving it life.
How do I get it out without
pretending that it's not there? And
just pull it over the internet. Just look at pull it out.
You don't even need to do that. You just need to remember that a couple of truths. First of all, there's a book that I'm going to recommend. Do you like to read?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah, The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Okay.
Right. Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. He's a 53-year veteran in epigenetics, cell science, basically. And one of the things that he scientifically demonstrated is that only 2% of disease is actually naturally occurring. 98% of disease and illness is just the mind responding, the body responding to something the mind's told it. That's
the thing I'm looking for, to get it out.
But as long as you're trying to get it out, you're resisting it. As long as you're resisting it, you're still continuing to give it life. So this is the crazy, crazy thing. You can't let go of something until you respect it enough to leave it alone and accept it for being there. If you're saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want it, you're actually not pushing it away, you're pulling it in, because any relationship to the thing actually pulls it closer. So the question, so the game becomes, instead of pushing away what is, I'm moving towards what I desire to experience. So I'm not pushing away this distress in my body, I'm pulling in what wholeness in my body would feel like. Can you feel the difference between the two?
Yes, yes.
See, when I'm pulling in what I desire, I'm accepting that there's something here that I don't want. And instead of me resisting what I don't want, I lovingly allow it to be released as I call in what I want. This isn't putting my head in the sand and pretending things aren't there. This is, okay, I accept what's here now. And in that space of acceptance, I'm looking forward to creating something new going forward. Not because I'm resisting what is, but because I'm desiring what is ahead of me. And as I keep focusing on the desire of what's ahead of me,
I believe I'm doing that. I believe I'm doing that, but I feel it physically.
But you've already said, I don't want it. You've already said, I'm looking for the thing. The words that you've said already give a clue as to what's happening at the unconscious level. Because remember, what you're consciously saying isn't where the magic is. It's what's happening.
Yes, I know that. So that's what I want to know. How do I access that unconscious part?
So the unconscious mind responds not to words, but it responds to imprints. All right. Did anybody here wake up this morning having created their unconscious programming this morning? Right? It's built over time. Did anybody sit there and say, okay, I'd like to take the number 5 for my unconscious programming. I like the 23. And do you have that in green? That's not what happened. Your environment imprinted you with that program. So if your environment imprinted you with the program before, there's a clue. Your environment is what's going to imprint the program going forward. Every single piece of input that we take into our body through any of our senses either reaffirms or disrupts the program that we're running on, which will lead to the unconscious thought, which will lead to the outcome, will lead to the habits and behaviors, will lead to the opportunities that you can see. So you need to ask yourself, does your environment support you moving towards health? Or is there still evidence in your environment that your body's not well?
In my environment, like people.
People, places, and things. What? People, places, and things. What conversation are you having? And this is why, and Walt's heard me say this a load of times on the Thursday, transformation is not an easy job because you have to literally completely re-know yourself in a new way. And there's a level of work involved there that modern day popular culture makes us think is easy, but it's not. You're literally talking about completely re-knowing yourself at a cellular level. That's going to take dedication. It's going to take discipline. It may take, depending on your belief systems, some sacrifice also. It could be that you've got best friends that you have conversations with that you now realize that those conversations are not actually leading to my health. It could be that there's somebody that takes an action or has a behavior that reaffirms you as having sickness in your body, in which case it may require you to shift away from that in order to do something as big as changing your physiology to have a new experience. You're talking about complete rewrite of your environment to match that new experience.
I started this process about 30 years ago. Part of it was leaving my ex-husband, leaving the job I was doing because I could see it made me ill, changing diet, changing lifestyle. I don't have negative people around me. I surround me with positive people. And that's, I'm looking for something that I am missing to get through that final hurdle.
If you're looking for something that you're missing, and you're looking for the final hurdle, all you're calling in is more hurdles, which is exactly what I was saying before. And my wording sounds soft, but there's a real fine line between looking for what's coming, acknowledging what is, to wanting something different and seeing what is. It's a very, very, very subtle fine line. And I can see that's what you're doing. I believe that you're putting in all the work. I believe that you're doing everything that you can, but there's a very fine line of doing it from a place of, I want to move out of this, to, I accept that this is here. now, but it doesn't have to stay. And this is what I'm calling in instead. That shift, it sounds really simple, but that simple shift, when properly embodied, will create the miraculous outcome that you're looking for, whether it's a spontaneous healing in your body, whether it's some new miracle drug that they've come up with, or whether it's some new protocol that you're going to hear about. The possibility exists because the desire is there. But so long as you're looking at that desire from, I don't want this, you're not going to be able to move to that because you're going to be trapped repeating the same outcome.
I think I found my answer. Walt will understand what I'm saying now. I'm very persistent. Mm-hmm. And for 30 years, I've persisted. I'm going to find the solution. Yeah. I must just maybe let go of that idea and just focus on what I'm doing and do what I'm doing and forget that persistence of I'm going to find it.
Do it for the love. Do it because you love your body. You want your body to have a full experience, not because you're upset that your body isn't allowing you to have a full experience. Do you get that subtle difference?
I understand. I think it's that persistence in my personality because of what I've done and what I've been through. And it actually started with this basic. And I said, from the first time they diagnosed me and they told me there's no cure, I said, there's no known cure. I'm going to find it. I'm going to sort it out. And now my daughter has it as well. So now it's even stronger. I have to find it for her.
So here's the thing. When people tell you something, and this is for everyone, when people tell you something that doesn't match what you want to see, don't argue with them. Just say, thank you for sharing. Don't argue with them. No, I'm going to find it. That resistance is just giving life to their lie. Because in order for you to engage with it, you're saying that it's real. Anyone here ever spoken to a small child that's talking about like an imaginary friend or an imaginary situation? You don't fight with them about it. Oh, how cute. Like, that's cool. Oh, right, cool, whatever. That's the level of oh, you're never going to do that. Oh, okay, thank you for sharing.
That's very interesting.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
I don't argue with them, but maybe that's what's going on, arguing with myself.
It's definitely going on.
Because I don't argue with them, but
if we go down the rabbit hole on this, the fact that they've shown up means that discussion's already going on in your mind, because that's how it's become manifested for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
I want to ask Dan something after seeing what I've just saw now and the reactions it had on everybody. I've had the experience and the training, and I know it always helps a lot of people when you sit with your partner and instead of having a fight, sitting knee to knee and seeing the small child instead of the adult. And I think they're all married. So I think it's the same exercise that helps a lot of people in relationships to not fight, but to see that small child in your partner.
I'll share something. So my son is 13 months old. He's just literally turned 1 in December. And he's got really cool stuff that he started doing. So I was going out this morning to the office and he ran up to me and bye. I was away for a few days. I got back yesterday. And when I got back, he came up to me and said, hey. Nobody taught him how to do that. He learned how to do it. Right? He says agua now. So we live in Mexico. I live in Cabo in Mexico. My wife's Russian American. I speak English. The nanny speaks to him in Spanish. So he's got 3 languages going on at all times. Olga speaks exclusively Russian. Isabel speaks exclusively Spanish. I speak English, and Ariana speaks whatever she's in the mood for speaking. So we don't know what words are going to come out and which words he's going to have. These words are just unfolding from all of the words that he's got happening. My stepdaughter Ariana is 6. Okay. She's approaching the time when her unconscious mind is actually starting to settle in and have an analytical function. But it's not quite there yet. But right now, she's on the cusp of becoming essentially the person that she's going to be. The door's closing on who she's going to be. Every single one of us here right now are the unfolding of that door closing around the age of 6, 7, 8 years old. How many of you can remember what was happening when that door was closing? I don't remember being 6 or 7 or 8. I've got flashes here and there, but I don't have a level of clarity in that memory that allows me to have a conscious relationship to what was happening when I was when I was becoming the person I am today. Every single person that's mean to you, that's angry with you, that loves on you, is simply playing out patterns that the door closed on decades ago that they had no access to. Watching Ethan gave me a very deep compassion for everybody. The douchebags, they're not even aware of the douchebag programming. The meanies, they're not aware of the douchebag programming, the meanie programming. They're not aware of it. So when you have people who are taking actions that are impeding your ability to live your full, abundant, joyful, purpose-driven life, remember that they're probably not even acting from a space that they even know of. Say thank you for sharing, send them love, and take an appropriate action based on where you want to go next, not where your response or reaction to their behavior or words takes you. Does that make sense? So, okay.
Absolutely brilliant. Anyone? That's intense. Thank you. I don't know what just happened just now, but thank you.
You don't need to understand. The mind doesn't need to tell you how to get to God.
Well, fair enough, because it has no clue.
Yeah. Your body knows, and you can let your body remind you just by 3 taps.
Okay, I have to become very present right now because I have to go back to finishing up the summit here. Oh, my goodness. Whew. Okay, maybe we can arrange another time for you to experience it. But, excuse me, I'm still coming back to present. Just bear with me for a moment.
Well, while you're getting back, I want to share something. I've forgotten doing these things. Every exercise that Dan did, I did with each and every one of you. At a stage when my pain levels were so high that no painkillers work, they taught me to do this, and I have stopped doing it. I don't know why. Just didn't make time or whatever the excuse. They call it self-hypnosis. And I want to tell you, this whole summit, I was sitting barefoot, but I couldn't put my feet flat on the floor. I'm sitting with my feet like this on the sides. This afternoon, every time I would watch something like this and I breathed, that breath irritated and made my skin hurt. And I had to move my hand. All that is all of a sudden gone.
Wow.
I don't know whether it was the exercises, whether it was the block that Dan helped me remove. But literally, the doctors always ask you your pain levels from 0 to 10. I was probably on a 7, 8. And I can now say, after doing these exercises with each one of you, I'm on about a 3 or 4.
Wow.
Oof.
I don't know if you guys saw me now blowing on my hand. I was, there's no pain. Well, just before the summit started, I was watching things and I sit like this and the breath from my nose hurt me. And I had to move my hands every time. I became aware of it. And I was sitting with my feet like this all the time because I can't put my feet down flat. They've injected me about a week or 2 ago. Under my feet, my legs, my arms, everywhere, except my tummy. And I remember at that stage, the psychologist that trained me, she trained a guy who was pushed against the wall by a buffalo, and the buffalo crushed everything. And no painkillers, nothing would work. And he came to her and he said to her, if you don't teach me to control this pain, I'm going to kill myself. And she taught him how to do it. And while I was doing these exercises now, every time when Dan took each and every one of you through it, I started remembering these things that she taught me. And I haven't done it for years. I just wanted you guys to know, because that's where I learned the power of the mind, where no medication will work. They've put me on these patches. It's called Eurogesic. It's a fentanyl patch that is 300 times stronger than morphine, and it wouldn't work. They give it to terminal cancer patients just before they die. I was on those high dosages. And learning that, and I've stopped doing it. I don't know why. And this now reminded me to keep doing it, because that my pain levels are in compared to what I'm used to, I can now actually say I'm in no pain. And I just want you guys to know how powerful this is. I have forgotten these things.
You have remembered these things.
And like I say, a few hours ago, I would think like this, my normal breath would hurt me. And I had to move my hand so that I don't breathe over my hand. And now I can blow as hard as I can. It's fine. There's no sensation of pain. I just wanted you guys to know I remembered what I knew and what I've forgotten to do. And that is the power of the mind and using neuroplasticity.
Congratulations for remembering. Wow.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, everyone, because it was every exercise. I literally did every exercise with each one of you, closing my eyes and doing what Dan was doing with you.
By the way, I want to point something out that, Dan, you might not even have noticed this, but you mentioned earlier Lynn McTaggart's work with the power of 8. Notice how many participants are currently in the chat. Yeah, there are 8 of us.
As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, 8 people.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Well, unless somebody else has something they need to jump in here to help finish this off, because I'm not sure how else to finish this off, all I can say is thank you. As usual, you are an amazing man, truly amazing man. And I'm blessed to count you as a friend, and I'm blessed to have you part of the summit. So thank you so much. Wow.
That sounded really creepy, but I'm going to take the credit.
We'll be watching you.
I was really impressed with your work. Thank you.
And please keep watching me.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, this concludes the 4th workshop of this first ever Living Our Abundance Summit. We actually have one more coming up a week from yesterday. So next Thursday, the 27th, that's the last one. That's with Kelly Coulter. It's going to be a coaching session there. So that'll kind of wrap everything up. But just through where we are right now, Dan is just really, he started us off with what I'm calling our keynote. He just set the tone for the whole event on Tuesday, and he's finishing up the week, not the whole summit, but he's finishing up the week with us today. And Dan, you bookended it beautifully. Well done. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for everybody who participated. Thank you to everybody who is watching the replay, because even though you aren't getting the direct experience with Dan here, I know you're getting the indirect experience, just the way Maria was doing with all the different readings that she was tapping into there. So my joy goes out to all of you for what you're picking up as well. So thank you all very much, and have a great evening, and we will see you again next Thursday.